In her little hideaway tucked behind the closet in her mom's room, Mary dreamed and saw a great forest with enormous trees, some so old that their trunks twisted this way and that, and their thick, moss-covered branches reached for a sky that was grey and scary and filled with a grey mist that hid the sun. There were many creatures in the forest she had never seen before. Some were nice, but many were entirely unfamiliar and downright creepy. The trees seemed to hum and move as though they were alive, and living among them were creatures so tall and skinny that she wondered how they stayed upright. Their bodies looked vaguely human. However, their eyes glowed bright yellow and they regarded her curiously from the darkness between the trees. Oddly, she didn't feel afraid, as though she knew them and they knew her, and she wondered why that was. The earth smelled rich and wet, and Mary had a keen sense of belonging, like she was part of the forest and it was part of her. Even though the tall beings looked nothing like her, she continued to explore, and soon the trees thinned and she came to stand on the top of a cliff and gaped in amazement at the forest stretching out away from her in all directions like a big green sea.
"This is your home,"
a voice said beside her, and Mary jumped and turned to see one of the spindly creatures looking out across the great expanse.
"Once, this was all there was, and our kind were the only ones who lived here. We filled unto us Great Mother Earth and lived in harmony with her."
Who are you?
Mary whispered in a trembling voice. The creature gazed down at her, and its eyes glinted eerily.
"I am like you, Mary."
What?
The creature made a sweeping gesture with its long arm.
"And this is our home."
But I look nothing like you.
She said, growing more frightened by the second. She was trying very hard to wake up, but it was like an outside force was keeping her stuck in the disturbing dream.
I don't like it here.
She whimpered. The creature suddenly turned on her and hissed, bearing rows of very sharp teeth, and its eyes were now glowing red and menacing. Mary backed away and tried to scream, but her throat felt thick, like there was something stuck in it.
"You don't remember who you are because you are not pure."
The creature shouted in its grating voice and began walking towards her.
"You must deny your human father and embrace the purity of your elemental mother, youngling. You must go through the ancient rites and let go of your humanity."
It kept coming at her until she fell hard onto her bottom.
"If you do not, we will rip you to pieces and eat your flesh and bathe in your blood. Humans are inferior and weak. They have no respect for those who came before. All they do is destroy and conquer everything they touch with no regard for the ancient, life-giving world they live on. Their disrespect for unto us is unacceptable."
The creature's words and odd accent sounded nothing like English, yet she understood what it was saying, which added to the creepiness of the dream. Well, it was rapidly turning into a nightmare now. She pinched her arm and even slapped her cheek in an effort to wake up, but nothing worked.
I don't understand.
She sobbed as she scrambled back onto her bottom. The creature was starting to resemble a giant spider as it stalked her and pointed a black-tipped, razor-sharp finger at her. Mary didn't know why or how she knew this, but she was only like this creature in that she wasn't entirely human. And whereas it was bound to the earth, She was air and light, like the sun and the rain and the wind.
If you do not embrace your heritage, you will be consumed like the rest of humanity across this world. Our power is formidable and far superior to humans, youngling. So make your decision wisely. This world was always ours, and it will become ours again. We will take back our home from those who stole it, and they will no longer exist. And you and the elementals will not stand in our way.
It knelt down and placed its hands on either side of Mary, then leaned down until its formless face hovered inches above hers. Only now did she see that its skin looked like the bark of the ancient trees in the forest, and its breath smelled of something rotten, like meat gone bad. So she held her breath and waited to hear what it would say next.
Make your choice, youngling. Either come home and leave the humans and their polluted, broken world behind, or we will end you and your tribe. You are not as important as you think, youngling, no matter what your people say.
Even though the meaning of the creature's words were confusing, Mary understood the gist of them, and she nodded her head vigorously while her body shook and tears rolled down her cheeks.
Awake!
The creature yelled, and Mary instantly shot upright on her mattress and screamed before bursting into tears.
Mommy!
She called, no longer caring if the creature in the house heard her.
Mommy, come home. I need you. Where are you? I'm so scared.
Mary grabbed the phone and saw that it was already lunchtime, so she speed dialed the lawyer's number again. If Mommy was on her lunch break, she'd definitely answer the phone this time. But when the call went through, Mary heard a long beep, then a voice that said the number was no longer available.
The number you dialed is not a working number. Please check the number and dial again.
What was she going to do now? Downstairs in the kitchen, the Bagadon that was stalking Mary stood looking out the back door across the garden, where the remains of its first meal lay on the blood-stained grass, and it tilted its head to listen. A faint sound, like a human cry, made its pointed ears prick up, and it hissed through sharp teeth still stained with the blood and flesh of the dog and the human. The cry could have come from somewhere outside, from within the fog its people had created to confuse the humans and the Kawatha. But it wasn't sure. It could hear others of its kind hunting down the humans in this part of the town. And their screams made it hungrier. Now that it was once again free and had returned to its true form, its hunger was constant, never-ending, depthless, and the dog and the old human woman had satisfied it only a little. It hadn't fed as its true self for decades, so its hunger was understandable. Stalking the small human in the house had been exciting but frustrating, because even though it knew where she was, it couldn't see her, as though its mind was being purposefully befuddled and it was being pushed away from her. Only the ancient rituals could do that. Understandable, as the girl's mother was Kawatha and had no doubt used elemental magic to protect her halfling. The Bagadon tried to decide whether to continue its frustrating hunt here or leave and go hunt for easier prey that wasn't protected by magic to satiate its hunger. If the human in the house was protected, she wouldn't leave her safe place, which meant it could leave to hunt for a short time and then return later to fulfill its mission to capture the girl and deliver her to the Ganthu. Perhaps when it returned, it would bring one of the elders with it. Yes, this was a better plan. The Bagadon stepped out of the house on its long, spindly legs, raised its head to the sky and sniffed deeply. Then left in a blur of movement barely perceptible to the human eye.